All right, folks, welcome back to the podcast. Appreciate you stopping by. If you're watching or listening on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot, as you know. Appreciate that. Today, Jack O'Shea, welcome to the podcast. Appreciate you taking your time to do this, man.
Thank you, man. I'm happy to be on the podcast.
Did I pronounce your name right, by the way?
You didn't, but I wasn't going to correct you.
Okay.
O'Shea.
O'Shea?
O'Shea, yeah.
Okay. I am notoriously bad at pronouncing names. I'm so bad at it.
Well, so is your last name actually Will?
It's Williamson.
Exactly. So, but it's like if I had tried to pronounce your name, I'm sure I would have gotten it.
Yeah, that's
way
true.
off.
That's true. Is your last name Irish or Scottish or?
It's Irish.
Okay. Is
Yeah,
your Sorry, go ahead.
it's one of those things where like the real spelling, like the Gaelic spelling of it, has a bunch of letters where you're like, that doesn't make any sense to make that sound.
Yeah.
Like there's like a D in it for the Gaelic spelling. It makes no sense.
Mm.
But it's shea like shea butter. That's the best way that I've
Shay.
heard it described.
Okay, got it. All right, man. Well, yeah, I've been looking forward to talk to you. I love your videos. I'm a fan of yours. They're so original and so funny. I think your type of content was the first like it I ever saw on TikTok.
That's a good question. Yeah, because actually, like, for a second, I thought you were going to say like the first type of content like my content. I would have been like, well, as much as I would love that, I make kind of just more traditional sketch comedy where it's like Key and Peele and Chappelle Show and even like the Saturday Night Live digital shorts. Like what I do is what people have done, comedians have done forever. As far as for TikTok goes, though, like honestly, maybe just because the TikTok format is usually with your iPhone direct to you. People basically like you could make every one of the sketches that I make doing it that way, just making them a lot simpler, which is how a lot of people do it on TikTok, and a lot of people will literally remake my sketches doing it like that. Yeah, it honestly might be, and there's like an argument to be made too, where I've often thought, I wonder if it kind of hurts my videos performance, because often when you like if you go to one of my videos, like it kind of appears like an ad.
Yeah,
As
in a
opposed,
way, I
it
guess.
just seems right. Like it seems like, oh, this is some company that's trying too hard at TikTok, because that's obviously what I'm doing. It's just trying a little bit too hard.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I'm assuming you're using a real camera, not a phone, right? Yeah, because the quality is super high. And that was actually something I went back and forth with when I did TikTok. I don't do TikTok as much anymore, but I did like kind of comedy skits as well, but without as much talking, kind of inspired by the old Logan Paul vines. And I started out with a phone as well, and then I moved into a real camera, and I feel like it kind of lost its charm in a way. For me, at least.
There's something like there's a certain like I'm sure you could basically make like a equation for it, where if you're going to use a nicer camera, so you're and by nicer camera I really mean like which if you went down the rabbit hole, it's like it's really which lens you're using. So it's like if you use a more cinematic lens, where in layman's terms it's whatever's in there's a certain subject in focus and everything behind them is blurry.
Yeah.
And the nicer the lens is, the blurrier the stuff is behind them. If you go down that rabbit hole, you really need to go all the way, because otherwise it just almost feels kind of like pretentious. Like there's a certain charm to things like videos not like being imperfect in a way.
Yeah.
That TikTok has. Like you get a little bit of credibility. That's why, like speaking of Vine, it's like the way that like Logan Paul and those guys used to do Vines was, instead of wearing a wig and being like, I'm a girl, this character is a girl, they would put like a shoe on their head. Just like, it's simple, don't overthink it. And if you start with the video like that, people give you a lot of benefit of the doubt, and then you can kind of do whatever. But if they actually got like a nice wig, they'd also have to shave their beard and put on a dress and go the full Monty with it.
I think the phone thing, and like as you said, like putting a shoe on their head as like a wig, it adds the element of, it feels like anybody can do it.
Yeah, it makes, you're right. That's a really good point, where it's like, this feels like a video my friend could have sent me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's also really good for those platforms, I guess, too, because it's like if anybody can do it, then everybody will try it and you get more users and more money and whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like Vine was probably the first platform that had that feeling. And then TikTok obviously came along where everybody had accessibility to create, which was huge.
Yeah, no, I worked in digital media. That was like right after I graduated college was when Vine was big. And so I worked for like a digital media talk show right out of college where I was just like a production assistant. And then I was like the open mic or the stand up that gets the live audience kind of going. And at the time, like all of our guests were Logan Paul's. And I'm so bad with the names, but like we had both of the Paul brothers on. We had uh, who's the South American girl, Lele
Yeah.
Pons,
Yeah.
all of those like big Vine stars and stuff coming on. And yeah, you're right. Like that was the first. Obviously, Vine was like the precursor to TikTok,
Mm.
and TikTok kind of like figured out a way to monetize it and took it to the moon.
Yeah. Do you remember why Vine was removed, or like I don't remember.
They just were not run properly from like a business perspective. They did the first thing. They really invented TikTok, where it's like so they had their platform was really great. By the way, is this side of my face so overexposed it's
One
distracting?
side is a little bit overexposed, but I think
Here, let me lower the
sure,
this right here.
sure.
Now I'm a little bit darker, but whatever.
I think yeah, that's fine.
So and again, tell me to shut up because I can talk about this stuff forever. So Vine, uh, they had the concept, everybody was using it, it was great. But the biggest challenge for all these social media companies, challenge number one is can we get people to use it and download it and use it every day? And it's just a part of their lives like Instagram or Twitter or anything like that. But then the second problem, which is by far the most important, it's where all these platforms go like end up dying, is how do we actually monetize this? And they couldn't figure out how to monetize it. And to make it worse, they also, before they monetized it, spent all of their money to just promote it and to grow it. They did the thing where they took Logan Paul and Lele Pons and all the big Viners, and they literally moved them, paid to move them to LA, and then they paid to have them all live in the same apartment complex, which if it had worked would have been like, this is a genius idea, but it didn't. And it was like, well, you guys just spent $20 million giving all these people high, like luxury apartments and didn't actually make any money in the meantime. Now you're out of cash and the whole thing just goes kaput. So that was the downfall of it. It wasn't anything besides you guys can't run this properly. And then within a couple of years, that's when the where we really started seeing like, because at the same time Instagram wasn't able to monetize either. Now there was Snapchat, now there was any of these companies, and they just figured out, okay, if we put ads in the middle in between videos when people are scrolling, that'll cover it at least for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and now as you can see with like, they're still all trying to figure out like how do we actually make real money, because Instagram's not making like real money yet. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know Vine paid for all these Viners to live in, because I remember that whole hotel kind of thing where they all lived the same place.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were.
There's a street in LA, like a few miles from us, that's Vine Street.
Yeah.
And so they lived in the building that is literally called 1600 Vine. So that's why they got that building. But it's a really nice building. It's like downtown Hollywood, which is kind of like a kitschy, touristy area. But we almost moved there when we were looking for like a new place.
Yeah.
And it is like, this is really, really nice. This isn't just a random LA. They could have just gotten a shitty LA apartment complex. And Logan Paul would have been like, great. And
yeah, I'm sure.
Have to be like pulling out all the stops. Yeah.
Wow, what a crazy opportunity for them. That's insane. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, how did you get started with all this, making videos?
So I always, there was like a certain point in high school where I was like, I don't know what I want to do in life. I had like just gotten hurt. Like I just like broken my femur. And so I was always like, I play sports. I'm like an athlete. Uh, and what I love when I tell this story though is it always makes it sound like I was like freaking Ronaldo or Michael Vick or something, and it's like cut down to my prime. It's like no, I was just like a regular high school
Mm.
kid who was really into sports, and but I kept on getting hurt. Like it tore both my shoulders, like broke my femur, all that stuff, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, I don't really know what I want to do in life. And then I was like, I love movies and I love TV. I'm gonna go into that. And so I went to like a summer college school when I was like 16 or 17. And I kind of like I learned how to shoot videos like the traditional way with film, like actual film, not digital. And I learned the ins and outs and all the, kind of basics film 101. And I remember midway through that summer talking to my dad on the phone, and he was like, it's really hard to be funny. Most people can't be, but you are. Go with that. And so that's
Ah.
really the reason why I was like, oh, I'll try to do comedy stuff. And then like a year later, my brother and I made a video that our first video where I was a dad and he was my son and he was gay and I was really, really into the fact that he was gay. Like I was
Okay.
overly excited about him being gay. And, just sort of the like, do you ever watch like Modern Family?
No.
But so there's a character Phil where he's the cool dad, and it's like, what if the cool dad's son is gay? Like, how does he embarrass his son by being too into his life?
Mm.
And that video actually did like for the time really well. And so then I was like, okay, cool, we got something. It's funny how it's if you get like a little bit of success in
Yeah.
something the first try, you're like, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was obviously that wasn't it. So went to college, um, moved to LA because I was like, I want to be in entertainment. And then I basically spent like 5 years working in production and on the creative side for like a lot of production companies, mostly digital media companies, while every day after work and all weekends working on my own stuff, just kind of getting better at shooting like comedy videos.
Mm.
And then basically right as the pandemic hit is when our videos started kind of blowing up. Um, and it's one of those things too, where it's like, people always say, I'm happy I wasn't really successful at the beginning because it taught me this, this, and this.
Mm.
And so I'll say that too, but it's also that's such bullshit. It's like if I had been where I am right now, 3 months into starting it, I think I would have been pretty thrilled with that too.
Yeah.
So, but I've made hundreds of sketch comedy videos, most of which nobody's seen. Uh, so it takes a lot of practice and a lot of like kind of learning how to takes a lot. I'm just realizing now too, as I struggle to come up with more ideas for sketch comedy videos, I should probably just look back at my old ideas because
Mm.
nobody watched those anyway and just remake.
Reinvent them.
Yeah, I probably
Yeah.
should just remake them. I'm gonna write that down. I might do that today. Be like, let's look at what did nobody see
Yeah.
that was a good idea, and just do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's smart. Reuse content for sure.
Yeah. Why
Uh,
not?
Speaking what you said about blowing up too fast, do you not think that for the most part, people who blow up immediately overnight, there's always something about those people. They don't really know how to handle fame and money
Yeah.
and the,
Oh, it doesn't work. No, that's a really good point. Like it is so rare. Well, it's even people who don't blow up overnight. It's really hard, no matter what. Like I always have something, and it's not to say that I'm like Matt Damon, because it's like it's not even like I'll get recognized and I make money and make a living doing this, but it's not like I'm like made it.
mm,
Uh, it social media, like when you're making content for social media, there's always this looming thought in your head of like, if I stop, it's over.
mm,
Because the way all these algorithms work is, especially YouTube, which is where you make most of the money, but also Instagram to an extent, and also TikTok to an extent. If I don't post for 6 months, the next time I do post, it's not going to be immediately put in
mm,
front of all of the followers that I've accumulated.
yeah,
It'll take a while, or it'll take like a really big video to get that kind of like heat back onto your account and stuff.
yeah,
So you have to constantly be, making new content. You have to constantly maintain it. And I think actually an even more important part of it is the people who succeed in this business are the people who actually love making the content, and that's why they're doing it.
Mm.
Because I love making sketch comedy videos. If nobody ever watched them, if I didn't make any money doing it, I would still be doing it today just because I love doing it. But for other people, when they on a whim one random night make a video like I make, and it does really well, they're more into it doing really well and people talking about it than the actual making of the video. Like they put too much into the comments. And it ends with them running out of ideas or not treating it the way they should be treating it, and they end up being like the damn Daniel kid who had the 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it is rare for people to succeed if they're not passionate about it. Because I think if you're really passionate about it, you have this eagerness to be better constantly. And I think that's what creates success, especially on social media.
No, that's exactly it. Yeah. Whatever you make, if you're your own harshest critic, yeah, like if you make something and then you watch it and you're like, okay, this is good enough to post, but I got to remember next time that the lights are too bright or, the microphone's too close, or just constantly tinkering and getting better.
Yeah.
That's how you succeed. There's basically like a 6-month window for me where anything more than 6 months ago that I watch, I made, can't watch because I'm like, I can't believe I didn't even know that I was I should have done this for these videos. And then which is a tricky thing because I know that 6 months from now, whatever I make today, I'm gonna look back and be like, that was awful. Why would I ever even release that? What an idiot I was.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's my cousin's husband. He's a massage therapist, sports massage therapist, and I've told him make some content on social media because he knows a lot of stuff about the human anatomy, and I think it would do so much for his business. But he's afraid to start because he feels like his videos won't be good enough. And I keep telling people they never will be good enough in the beginning, ever. No matter how long you wait, you have to start at some point. And as you said, in 6 months, you feel like you might have made the best video right now, but in 6 months, no matter what, you will have gone better, and you will look back at that video and you'll feel like it's shit.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's one of the real benefits of TikTok actually too. When we were first starting out, because he's afraid his content won't be good enough. And if you post it on Instagram, I get that because all of the people he knows follow him. And if it's humiliating, like if he's embarrassed by it, I totally get that fear. Because I had that when my brother and I first started, we would make videos and the only place we really knew to post them was Instagram. So we created a new account, didn't tell anyone about it because we were afraid that if we posted it and it wasn't good, our friends and family and people we know would be laughing at us. And it's like, there's a real hesitancy to it. And then I have another younger brother. I have 3 brothers. Our next brother, who watched us succeed to some extent, because of that, he has no fear. He'll just throw something on Instagram where I'm like, dude, this is not ready.
Yeah.
So, but he does, and it's like which means he'll be successful because that's the biggest challenge. With TikTok, though, for your cousin's husband, nobody will see it or everyone will see it. Like there's just so much less fear for people who are trying this stuff out now, because you can make a TikTok video and post it, and there's a good chance that unless it blows up, none of your friends and family are going to see it. Even if they follow you on TikTok, the way their whole machine works is it's going out to the world. If you picked 100,000 people out random in the world, odds are you don't know any of them.
Yeah.
So odds are nobody you know is going to actually see it.
That's so true.
It's a lot. The water's a lot warmer getting in for new people.
I remember when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, I made Pokemon card unboxing videos on YouTube. Yeah. And my friends at school found out, and I was so embarrassed. I deleted all the videos. It was the worst day of my life. And it's kind of crazy because I had spent so much time, like looking back at it now, making those videos. And just that one moment, people at school found out, I deleted all that hard work.
Yeah. Just gone.
I completely regret it today.
I think there's every single person who who does this stuff, every single person has a story like that.
Yeah.
Whereas, because you really want to do it, but it's also something too of like, and it's something that the kids in school now and like upcoming generations, they won't really have as much, but much of, because they grew up in this world where like being a YouTuber is a career. So it's not embarrassing to say I want to make videos or anything like that. Whereas growing up for me, like saying I want to make comedy videos, it's like an embarrassing thing to say, because it's like, oh, you think you're funny? Like, whereas now it's so much more attainable. It's so much less of a pipe dream. Everybody knows somebody who has, 100,000 followers on some platform, and they're a normal person. So it's not crazy for you to also say that you want to try to do that.
Yeah.
It's great. It's also like, we'll see how it goes. Because if everybody's trying to do it, then we might end up with some really shitty content.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I feel like we're at that point almost. Like so many people are doing it. And actually, I don't know if this standard has gotten lower. Do you feel like that?
It has, but not in a way that's bad, in a way. Like it's gotten lower. It's gotten lower in that, like, what qualifies. I don't know. It's like you could say that like even videos being vertical now is like lower quality, just because there's a reason why traditionally you shoot things,
horizontally.
Like, because you can see you can see more of the action if it's horizontally. Whereas if it's vertically, you really can only focus on one person unless you're really far back. And then if you're really far back, then that person the multiple people that you're focusing on, or the person in the subject that you're focusing on, are going to be fewer pixels. So no matter what, vertically it's why, like, whenever Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese or Wes Anderson or something, they make a new movie, the screen for movies keeps on getting wider and wider and wider. It ends up looking like a panorama because it's better quality video. So even just the new trend of the TMZ video that you see is no longer horizontal, it's now vertical. I mean, that's lower quality, but lower quality in the way that it's like kind of progressing also makes things more authentic, which is a benefit of itself. I mean, like, do you watch any like sitcoms or anything?
No, not really. No.
But like, but you know that like in like the 90s and early 2000s, and even 2010s to an extent, like old sitcoms had the laugh track.
Yeah.
Which now, if you watch it, it's incredibly disorienting, because you're like, well, so this is all like, it makes the whole thing feel really fake.
Yeah.
And you can't be as invested in it. But at the time, nobody ever felt that way. Now, if a comedy show has a laugh track, I turn it off immediately, because it's like, it's one of those fucking shows.
Yeah.
In the past, it was like, no, this is great. And so the quality is getting up. Like, things getting more raw and more real is better. You just also have to pay for it with, it doesn't look as good. It's not as pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess it's up to everybody, individual person's opinion. It's a subjective thought.
It's a very, very interesting conversation. I remember watching an interview with Mr. Beast, who explained why he did not want to upgrade to 4K, I believe, on his videos. And that's exactly because it's going to feel more authentic in a way. To not do that, to have the lower quality in a way. And yet he's the biggest YouTuber in the world.
I do the same thing, because we shoot our stuff in 4K, and I always upload it 1080p. Just because, I mean, partially because it ends up being closer to 1080p, so I can zoom in and zoom out and perfectly frame the shots and whatnot. And that's the benefit of shooting in 4K, is you can, while you're editing it, frame the shots correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with him. Like, it's like if you're on TikTok and you're swiping, the really high-res video that pops up, usually it's a Sprite ad. And so your mind is just like, you eventually learn, like, forget it, just keep going. It's also the same thing with the shoe on the head instead of the wig. Like, if something's 4K, all the other bells and whistles should be 4K level quality.
Yeah.
You kind of lose a little bit of the benefit of the doubt.
It's super interesting. I wanted to talk to you about controversy and cancel culture because I don't think your content is necessarily very controversial, but I know like today's age, some people will probably get offended by some of the content you create. Do you ever think about that at all?
I mean, yeah, because it's kind of, especially with like comedy, and it's obviously it's over talked about by like every stand-up comedian about like, cancel culture. Like that's like the number one subject, and it's an important subject, but it's also like it's stale if everybody's talking and joking about it. But like for sure, I mean, the first video that my brother and I made that I told you about, I don't know if we would have made that today. We certainly would have made it like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We would not have made it today, maybe just because now I'm more confident with like making things not that aren't offensive, or if this is offensive, it's offensive to the people that are looking to be offended. Like there's a kind of that line now. You kind of I've become more comfortable with there's no way anything I make won't be offensive to somebody because 5% of the people who watch videos right now are watching it to tell you that it's offensive.
Yeah.
And they're scanning it like they're the internet police. Because you kind of get a rush if you're like, this is wrong. Like when you comment like, you should be ashamed, apologize, something like that. Like it gives them some dopamine or serotonin to the fucking brain. And so there's nothing you can do about that. And there's also something too with like everybody, there's a real human urge to join a mob.
Yeah.
And my God, is that evident on the internet?
Yes.
Where all of a sudden, like, none of these people know each other. None of these people know the person that they're talking about. None of the people actually watch the video that they're upset with. But you get why 300 years ago, people were pulling out their pitchforks and being like, let's go do this. Because clearly it's a really good feeling to some extent. And so, yeah, as far as like controversy stuff, my fiance, who's in like all my videos, and we make them all together, she writes half of them. She's younger than me and really grew up on the internet more than I did. And she's on, like, I never use TikTok. I never really use any social media platform like myself, just because it fucks with my head. And also the last thing I ever want to do is see a comedy sketch made by somebody else, because then I feel like I can't use that idea. And I don't want to accidentally rip somebody off. Or if I rip somebody off, I want it to be completely accident because I never saw it. So I don't even watch. I don't want to know what I can't make. But she's really good at being like, we can't make that joke. Like we made a video recently called TikTok Told Me I Have ADHD.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like the whole thing is just everybody's watching TikTok videos, and then they're like, somebody makes a video being like, so I have ADHD and here's how I found out. And the symptoms are always like, I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah.
Or some bullshit. And everybody's like, oh my God, I have ADHD too. But it's not even just ADHD, it's ADHD, it's OCD. The big one that I wanted to put in, and this was gonna be the punchline for the video, was autism. Because all of a sudden everybody is like, I'm autistic. But Michaela was right in that she was like, you can't say that because that's where you're going to get people
interesting,
really upset.
Yeah.
And which was a bummer because I had a really good joke at the end because to me, it's really funny how, there's the ADHD, there's the OCD symptoms that people, on the internet, they'll say they'll have, and then everybody thinks they have those symptoms. For autism, it's offensive. People literally be like, I'm autistic because I'm random. Like they'll be like, I'll eat breakfast food at night.
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't make you autistic. Like the autism is real. A lot of people have autism. just because you're searching for your identity doesn't mean you should say you're autistic. Like that's actually offensive. So I don't want to make fun of that, but it's a really fine line that you have to really just fly right through. Otherwise, you're either a jerk or people get really, really upset. I'm also because I'm never really on the social media. I'm not really. I don't care when people are that upset with me. Um, but it's probably good not to end up on some blog because it's probably better to avoid being doxxed or swatted or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I feel like as long as you haven't actually done anything wrong, I mean, all the hate comments is kind of a win-win. It's more engagement, more views, more shares. Point, yeah. What do you think about someone like Andrew Schultz, who just does not give a fuck, who says exactly like anything and everything goes?
So wait, is Andrew Schultz? I always get him and Andrew Santino confused. Is he the redhead or is he the? I think he has brown hair, right?
He has brown hair, yeah.
So I because I don't really watch too much Instagram or TikTok or anything like that, just to avoid accidentally stealing from somebody. I don't know. I've seen him in stuff and I've seen some of his stand-up and he's hilarious.
He's very funny.
But I mean, and the way what you're describing of just like not really giving a fuck, like every day I'm becoming more and more like that. I still have some sort of limits to what I'll do and what I'll say, but every day that limit is being stressed further and further because it's like you said, it's like if I'm not meaning to offend anybody, if I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, that's usually very apparent to the viewer. So the person who's saying you hurt my feelings, or more likely you're hurting these other people's feelings that I'm not even a part of. I love when people do that. I love when people are like, I'm gonna speak for these people I don't know.
Yeah.
What are you fucking talking about? Like, because always those people that you don't know think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Why are you offended?
That's true.
You just get more comfortable being like, I don't care about offending the people who are looking to be offended. That's unavoidable. If I'm too concerned with that, I'm going to lose my business because it's just a part of being in this business.
I think it's awesome that you are giving less of a fuck as you go along, because I feel like for the most part, as people grow their social media platforms, it's the opposite, because they start, oh my God, I built this thing. I'm so worried that it's going to go away now.
Because I think usually that happens. I know exactly what you're talking about, where people will make content that'll be really edgy, really edgy, really edgy, really edgy. Then they'll get that first, this person's a monster, doxed, threatened, all that thing, and they really calm it down. And then the question is, do they ever get back up? Because
people follow for that itchy thing. So if they stop doing it, it doesn't make sense why they grow further.
It's exactly, if you made it being controversial, you're not going to make it being non-controversial.
No,
you'll have to change your name and start anew, because all the people following you are like, no, I like your raunchy shit. Stop with this like YouTube kids shit. But it's like, it's a weird process, kind of getting comfortable with it. That I definitely have had moments where, I mean, I remember the first video we made where my brother was gay and I was his dad. I remember there were comments, but at the time, 3 comments that were like, this is offensive. And I remember feeling like my world was just rocked. It's over. My life is over. And one of my buddies was like, don't apologize. There's nothing to apologize for. And I'll have to remember that. I keep that in my head all the time. So Forrest Ackerman, thank you. He's the one who told me that.
Yeah. I've seen YouTubers that I feel like were canceled for absolutely nothing, who say sorry even though they don't feel like it. And that's when the whole, exactly. That's when everything runs loose and you can't take that back. And then you have to say sorry every time you make a mistake, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've told people before too, uh, the trick to not being canceled is to just not be canceled. Like
Yeah.
you decide if you're canceled,
Mm-hmm.
not the internet
Yeah.
mob. Like the internet mob might be chanting for you to apologize or to like fucking they'll say like kill yourself, like just
Mm.
terrible shit. They're terrible people. Any mob is terrible, for the most part. Um, it's you who if you apologize, if you stop making content, then you're canceled.
Yeah.
But if you don't apologize and you don't stop, it goes away because once the hyenas realize, hey, this thing isn't like
Yeah.
backing up and
Yeah.
giving up, then they run away and try to find the next thing. The the internet has like the mob has no real power. It just feels like that. It's just
Mm-hmm.
really scary. So if you never apologize, never stop, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
craziest shit is when people try to pull up something from like 10 years ago as if you're the same person that you were 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's my favorite. And it's always motivated too. Like it's always like somewhat like politically motivated or anything like that. It
Yeah.
usually is like somebody's upset with some creator or some politician or some celebrity for something. So they're like, I'm gonna spend the next 48 hours just diving through everything they've ever done or ever said.
Yeah.
And so it always comes back and it's like, who gives a shit what I said 5 years ago, a year ago? We're different people.
Mm-hmm.
Also, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Just in general. Yeah.
Do you feel like the world is going to get more soft, or are we at a turning point where we're probably going back to where offensive comedy is a bit more acceptable?
I think we're definitely at a turning point. I can just as somebody who makes stuff, I have a pretty good finger on the pulse of everything. And it does feel like people are do you ever watch South Park?
Yeah, favorite show.
Okay, so you know South Park, there's an episode that actually I think was like might have been 7 years ago. They made an episode. Oh, you know what? It was with PC Principal.
Yeah, yeah.
The first episode with him, there's like a shot of the farmers, and they're like, "Uh-oh, looks like things are getting all PC again."
Mm-hmm.
Like, how long did it last time? And I forget the amount of years they said, but I bet you, if I forget if they said it last time, it lasted about 7 years. I bet you it's been that long because it
Mm.
does feel like people are kind of over it. Like
Yeah.
you get over it when people get over it individually when they finally see something when it's gone far enough that they see something is like, wait, this isn't, I actually don't think this is offensive. People think this is offensive. Okay, maybe the things that they think are offensive aren't actually offensive. And it just, the whole
Mm.
tower just topples and we start back at the beginning. And that's, yeah, I think we're kind of at that point. I think within the next couple months, we'll or
Next
not
couple
even,
of months?
I feel like we're at that turning point right
Okay.
now. Everything I see on the internet, people are a lot more like, shut the fuck up, who
Mm.
cares? Which is great.
I love it. Yeah.
Fun feeling sad. Why are you making yourself feel sad about things?
I
Or
remember it's like probably 7 or 8 years old. I watched a lot of very offensive Danish comedians, and I remember like as I grew up, and this was like at a very young age, I remember just noticing how comedy and the world changed and how people were so easily offended. And it really
Mhm.
shocked me. And I remember this so clearly. I was so young, but I just noticed that. And it was so strange.
Yeah, I mean that's why they say like any comedy movie in the 2000s that you watch, there's like five jokes in there where now even if you're not like offended by them, now you notice it. You're like, wait a minute, they said that?
Mm,
Uh I mean I totally agree. It's like it does feel like the world has gotten softer, 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 but I think it's just it's a cycle. Like it feels like that, and then it snaps back,
mm.
and then at that point, everybody's like, the world's getting softer, 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 softer. It's just a cycle that I think is probably just human nature and the way our culture works.
Have you wanted to dive into stand-up comedy?
I love stand-up comedy. I've done stand-up. My the biggest challenge for me is I'm a terrible sleeper. It's really hard for me to fall asleep. I don't know if I'm like an insomniac, but I think I'm an insomniac. I think that's how you describe it. And so I'd done a lot of open mics, uh, or I did a lot of open mics for a period of time. But then I just realized I was like, I'm going to bed at 4 a.m. because I get home at 2 and I can't fall asleep for 2 hours.
Mm.
So then I'm either waking up at noon, which I don't love because I like when the sun's out. I like I'm not a huge like night person in that way. And I just kind of realized like as much as I love doing this, like I'm not actually happy when
Mm.
I'm not doing it, like just on a regular day. So I was like, this sucks, but I can't really do it. I have though, uh, I've done a lot of stand up in the sense of like, because of the following I have, uh, just being invited to do it. And that's great because then I'm not doing the open mic. So it's kind of a cheat code. I've like
Yeah.
kind of skipped a step. And so I feel really guilty about that. But I'd love to do stand-up comedy at 6 p.m. We
Mm.
can get that thing going. I'm fucking in.
Yeah.
One of my brothers, though, one of my younger brothers does stand up a lot, and he's pretty good. He doesn't have my sleep issues.
It feels like all your brothers are artists in some way. Isn't one of your brothers also on a kids show? Or
No, he. Oh yes, yeah. No, my brother Henry, he produced a kids show. Um, I I think it's like instead of taking credit for it, I think it's sort of my fault in a way.
your fault?
That all my brothers are going into that thing because it's like I don't know, it's a really risky business and it's hard but
Mm.
I'm from a very funny family, so it sort of works. I'm the oldest of them, and me trying to do this really validated everyone else kind of trying to do it. Uh, my next youngest brother is a producer for network television, and then my that's Henry, and then my brother William, who's the next one, is the one who does stand-up comedy, and he's about to graduate from Syracuse and do something with comedy. He's not totally sure what, but he's really funny. And then my fourth brother, CJ, uh, is also in New York, but he goes to fashion school, so
Oh,
he wants to
wow.
do something in fashion. So yeah, if you met my family 10 years ago, you'd be very shocked if it was like all of them are going to the arts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is
That's
funny.
that's cool. So what's next for you?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I think we're gonna start doing a podcast. I kind of built this podcast studio. Um, we're at that sort of point where we really got a foothold in sketch comedy and what we're currently doing, and now it's figuring out, okay, we've done this, we can do this, and we'll keep doing this, but how do we expand?
Mm.
And man, if you have any ideas, let us know because
Yeah,
there's a lot of
absolutely.
options, but all of them have their pros and cons.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. We can totally talk at some point. I'll be happy
yeah,
to discuss that. Do you find
yeah.
though, because you did do a podcast with your brother, the Pool Boy podcast, was it called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pool Boy Podcast.
Do you find that because of the content you've done on TikTok and on YouTube with the sketch comedy, that
Mm-hmm.
which is more scripted, that people have a hard time following both?
No, not necessarily. I mean, they really do feed. I think yes and no. I think that people who watch our scripted content and really like our scripted content, it really helps. They like watching the podcast or listening to the podcast because it's kind of fun. It's like you know us as this, and now you actually hear what we're really like and
Mm.
stuff. I think people who, whereas I think people who start with the podcast and the unscripted stuff, it's less likely that they'll be like, I gotta watch this
Mm.
actual sketch, just because it's hard to go from real to not real, but it's easy to go from not real to real if that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Okay.
That's why like if you like, there's a lot of people a lot of comedians whose podcasts I'll listen to, but then I don't like their stand up as much in a weird way. It
Mm.
just it when you listen to their podcast all the time, their stand up feels less authentic and it
Yeah, that
feels
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. So uh yeah, so I don't know if that answers your
Yeah,
question, but
it does make sense. It's just for me personally, it was very hard get my followers from TikTok over to this podcast when I stopped doing TikTok, and still I have a hard time doing that. Granted, I don't have as many as big a following as you do, of course. But yeah, that was something I really struggled with when I started this podcast. People didn't seem to, because my stuff was obviously scripted as well on TikTok.
Well, so it's really hard to get people off of an app. And this is like an actual thing, just as somebody who's worked in digital media, this is an actual problem that companies, but also just like advertisers are always trying to deal with, which is if you're on Instagram, it's really hard to say, go to Spotify, because they're currently on Instagram. And not only that, but Instagram doesn't want people to leave Instagram.
Yeah.
So if you say in your video, go to Spotify, they're going to show your video to fewer people, because they don't want more people leaving Instagram. And TikTok's even worse, because it's such a slot machine. If I'm watching a video, I might think, oh, wow, I do want to watch that YouTube video, but without even thinking, my instinct is to go up, and then you completely forget the video you just watched.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to move people from TikTok to anywhere.
Yeah.
YouTube and Facebook are the two. That's why, for money, like for making revenue on these platforms, YouTube and Facebook are by far, you make by far the most money per view. Like it's not even close. And that's because people watching YouTube, just for whatever reason, because it's not a scrolling thing, it's really easy to click an advertiser's link or another platform or something. So it's really, I growing all of your platforms at the same time, really hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the same with brands. When they try to make organic content that's advertising their product, the algorithm does not want to push that out.
No, they want those brands to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They're like, we're not gonna let people look and see your advertisement. Give us $100 or $1,000, and then they'll see your advertisement. We know you have money. You're a business.
Yeah. Jack, thank you so much for coming on. Let everybody know where they can find your stuff.
Jack the Pool Boy for every platform, I think. Yes. At Jack the Pool Boy for everything.
Awesome.
Great being on. Great meeting you.
It was really fun, man. Yeah. Thank you so much. And
awesome. Right,
to the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already on YouTube. Thank you. Take it easy. Peace.